In the rarefied air of first class, where champagne flows freely and privilege is expected, Patricia Langford adjusted her pearl necklace with practiced precision. At 52, her platinum blonde hair was pulled into a tight chignon, her designer suit impeccable. The flight attendant had just welcomed her aboard with a warm smile and a glass of complimentary champagne. "Everything to your satisfaction, Ms. Langford?" the attendant asked. Patricia nodded curtly. Everything was as it should be, until it wasn't. Daniel Stokes moved with quiet confidence, his navy suit tailored perfectly to his athletic frame. He checked his ticket, seat 2B. First class. Window seat. Exactly what he had paid for. "Excuse me," he said politely to Patricia. "I believe I'm in the window seat." Patricia's smile froze. Her eyes darted from Daniel to his ticket, then back to his face. Something shifted in her expression, subtle but unmistakable. The corner of her mouth twitched. "Are you certain?" she asked, her voice honeyed with faux concern. "This is first class." "Yes, ma'am. Seat 2B. The flight filled quickly. Business travelers tapped on laptops. A young mother settled her child across the aisle. And from 3 rows back, college student Maya Williams discreetly aimed her phone camera at the interaction unfolding before her. Patricia's fingers now drummed faster on the armrest as Daniel settled beside her. He opened his laptop, focused on the presentation he needed to review before landing. But Patricia's body language screamed discomfort. She angled away from him, clutched her purse tighter, eyed the call button overhead. "Excuse me," Patricia finally called to a passing flight attendant. "I think there's been some sort of mix-up with the seating arrangement." The attendant, Sarah, according to her name tag, approached with a professional smile. "How can I help you?" "I don't think this gentleman is supposed to be seated in first class," Patricia said, her voice lowered but still audible to those nearby. "Perhaps you could check his ticket?" Daniel looked up from his laptop, his expression carefully controlled. This wasn't his first encounter with prejudice, nor would it be his last. Sarah checked Daniel's ticket and boarding pass. "Everything is in order, ma'am. Mr. Stokes is in his assigned seat." Patricia's smile tightened. "I see. Well, in that case." She leaned closer to Sarah, but her stage whisper carried. "I don't feel safe sitting here. Could you perhaps find me another seat? Or maybe find him one in another section?" Daniel closed his laptop slowly. He reached into his breast pocket and extracted a small leather wallet. With practiced calm, he flipped it open to reveal a gleaming badge. "FBI Special Agent Daniel Stokes," he said, his voice steady. "Would you like to file an official complaint, ma'am? I'd be happy to take your statement about why exactly you don't feel safe." Patricia's face drained of color. Maya's phone captured everything. Across the country, in a gleaming Manhattan skyscraper, another Daniel Mercer, CEO of Vantage Investments, stood at his office window, staring at the city below. His executive assistant, Elise Chun, entered with his afternoon coffee. "Your wife called again," she said softly. "She wants to know if you'll be home for dinner." Daniel Mercer turned, his expression troubled. "Tell her not to wait up." 2 different men named Daniel. 2 different planes of existence. One thread connecting them. The fragile nature of power, and how quickly it can slip away. Breaking news tonight. A shocking incident aboard Flight 1372 from New York to Los Angeles has gone viral. A woman, now identified as Patricia Langford, was caught on camera attempting to have a black passenger removed from first class, only to discover he was an FBI agent. Daniel Stokes had mastered composure through years of FBI training. When bullets flew, when suspects lied to his face, when doors were kicked down at dawn, he remained steady. This same composure served him now as his private moment became public spectacle. The video spread like wildfire. Racist woman tries to remove black FBI agent from first class. 30 million views in 24 hours. Patricia's name trended nationwide by morning. His supervisor called. "Stokes, you've become quite the celebrity overnight." "Not by choice, sir. The Bureau's getting press inquiries. You handled it by the book. Professional, restrained. I'm proud of you." Daniel nodded. "Thank you, sir. I'd prefer to get back to the Gonzalez case, if that's all right." For Daniel, it was Tuesday. He had a money laundering case to crack, witnesses to interview, a life to live. The incident was regrettable, but not defining. His power came not from the viral moment, but from years of dedicated service, from the quiet respect he'd earned through competence. For Patricia Langford, however, the aftermath was catastrophic. "What do you mean I've been removed from the board? I've raised millions for that charity." She listened, face contorting. "You can't do this. I've been a patron for 15 years. But they could. And they did. By week's end, Patricia had been ousted from 3 charity boards. Her social invitations dried up. The luxury brand that had featured her in their Women of Excellence campaign quietly removed her profile from their website. Entitled Racist. This is who she's always been. Finally exposed. Patricia's carefully curated world, built on family money, strategic marriages, and social climbing, began to crumble beneath her Louboutin heels. Meanwhile, Daniel Mercer's power was reaching its zenith. Vantage Investments had just acquired their biggest competitor. The board had approved his ambitious 5-year plan. At 46, he was featured on the cover of Business Today, the visionary reshaping modern finance. But success created isolation. His marriage to Catherine, once strategic, now hollow, existed only for appearances. Their conversations had devolved into logistics about charity events and vacation properties. Elise Chun, his executive assistant, had become his confidant. "Catherine served me divorce papers today," he confessed one evening as they worked late. Elise looked up from her laptop. "I'm sorry, Daniel." "Don't be. It's been over for years." He loosened his tie. "She wants half the company. Can she get it? Her father was my first investor. Without him, there would be no Vantage." Daniel sighed. "But I built this company. Every deal, every risk, every sleepless night was mine." "I see you," she whispered. "Not the CEO. Not the brand. You." A touch became a kiss. A line was crossed. Power shifted. 2 Daniels. 2 trajectories. Both rising. One through principle, one through compromise. But gravity eventually claims everything that flies too high. Patricia Langford's husband of 8 years, hedge fund manager Richard Langford, filed for divorce 6 weeks after the incident. Irreconcilable differences was the official reason. The real catalyst was the toxic cloud now surrounding his wife's name, and by extension, his own reputation. "We're prepared to offer a generous settlement," Richard's attorney announced coolly. "Provided this proceeds quickly and quietly." The prenuptial agreement she'd never bothered to read carefully now became her prison sentence. She would keep the Hamptons' house and an allowance, but the majority of their shared wealth, mostly his to begin with, would remain with Richard. Her phone rarely rang anymore. Her sister's texts went unanswered. "Is this you in the video? What were you thinking?" Lunch invitations evaporated. The hostess at her favorite restaurant suddenly couldn't find a reservation. Across the country, Daniel Mercer stood with Elise at Vantage's annual investor gala. They maintained professional distance in public, but their secret had grown over 3 intoxicating months. "You look beautiful tonight," he whispered as they momentarily stood alone. Elise smiled. "The investors seem impressed with the quarterly report." "They should be. You helped craft every—" The words died in his throat. Catherine, his estranged wife, had just entered the ballroom. On her arm was James Westfield, not just a board member, but the son of Vantage's largest investor. "Daniel, darling," Catherine purred, air-kissing his cheek. "You remember James? He's been such a comfort during this difficult time." James nodded coolly. "Daniel." Catherine's eyes flicked to Elise, then back to Daniel. "Oh, and you brought your assistant. How dedicated." Before Daniel could respond, Catherine leaned in, her whisper sharp as a blade. "You're still legally tied to me. Remember that before you do anything stupid with your little office conquest." The next morning, Daniel was summoned to an emergency board meeting. "This is unacceptable," Thomas Westfield, James's father, thundered. "An affair with your assistant while divorcing the woman whose family helped build this company? My personal life is. Your personal life becomes our business when it threatens shareholder value." Another board member cut in. "Catherine is threatening to go public. She knows about the affair." The ultimatum was clear. End things with Elise and reconcile with Catherine, or face removal as CEO. "I've never been dishonest with this board," he said finally. "I won't start now. My marriage has been over for years. I have feelings for Elise. I won't deny that." The boardroom erupted. Within days, Elise was transferred to a different department. Within weeks, Daniel Mercer was forced to resign from the company he had built. Patricia's fall came from a lifetime of entitlement finally exposed. Daniel Mercer's came from a moment of honesty in a world built on appearance. Different causes, same effect, power slipping through fingers like water. "The apology video isn't working," the specialist said bluntly, tapping on her iPad. "Comments are disabled, but it's still getting ratioed. People aren't buying it." Patricia's carefully constructed apology, filmed in her Hamptons home, wearing understated clothes, voice quavering with rehearsed remorse, had backfired spectacularly. "But I did everything you said," Patricia protested. "I mentioned my black colleagues, my donations to urban education initiatives. Name-dropping the 3 black people you've worked with and charities you can no longer prove you supported isn't helping," the specialist interrupted. People sense inauthenticity. The reckoning wasn't just external. For the first time in her privileged life, Patricia Langford was forced to confront herself. Who was she without her social position? Without the deference she'd come to expect? Without the power to call a manager, demand special treatment, bend the world to her will? Daniel Mercer faced his own reckoning. His severance package was generous. The board had at least respected his honesty, but his career was in tatters. At 46, he was toxic in the industry he had once dominated. His phone buzzed, Catherine's divorce attorney with another demand. What had once been an amicable separation had turned vindictive. She wanted the Manhattan apartment, the vacation home in Aspen, higher alimony. "Hello, it's Elise." Silence stretched between them. "How are you?" he finally asked. "Transferred to data analysis. 3 floors down and a world away from where I was." Her voice held no self-pity. "You?" "Considering my options. Mostly fielding calls from Catherine's lawyers." More silence. "Was it worth it?" she finally asked. "I lost my company, my reputation, half my net worth." He paused. "But I don't regret telling the truth. Not for a second." Across the country, Daniel Stokes was living a different kind of truth. The viral incident had faded from public consciousness, but occasionally he was still recognized. "On the house," she whispered. "My mom and I saw what happened on that flight. Thank you for your dignity." Daniel nodded his appreciation, but moved on quickly. He wasn't interested in being anyone's symbol or hero. He was focused on the Gonzalez case, now finally breaking open after months of painstaking work. The defendant moved over $30 million through these shell companies, he testified confidently. Each transaction disguised to appear legitimate. This was his purpose, not a viral moment of forced confrontation, but the daily work of justice. The money laundering conviction would dismantle a cartel's financial infrastructure and prevent countless lives from being destroyed by drug violence. For Patricia, reckoning meant learning that consequences don't discriminate. Her attempts to rebrand as a victim, "I've been canceled by the woke mob," found limited audience even in circles once sympathetic to her. She sold the Hamptons house, downsized to a still luxurious but far less impressive condo. Former friends crossed the street to avoid her. For the first time, she confronted a terrifying question. What if she deserved this? What if that moment on the plane wasn't an aberration, but a revelation of who she'd always been? "Integrity isn't what you show when everyone's watching," Daniel told the eager faces before him. "It's what you choose when nobody would know the difference." After the Gonzalez case, Daniel had been promoted to instructor at Quantico. His experience, both in the field and in that viral moment, made him uniquely qualified to teach the next generation about professional conduct under pressure. The viral incident was now a brief footnote in his distinguished career. He rarely discussed it, but when asked directly by a recruit, "Would you handle that flight situation the same way now?" his answer was simple. Exactly the same, without hesitation. After 6 months of legal battles, Daniel Mercer's divorce was finalized. Catherine received a substantial settlement, but not the company shares she'd demanded. Daniel retained enough wealth to live comfortably, but not extravagantly. The bell above the door jingled. Elise Chen entered, spotted him, and walked over. "You look well," she said, sitting down. "So do you." She did. There was a new confidence in her posture. "I'm starting my own financial consultancy," she told him. "Smaller clients. Ethical investments. Everything Vantage claimed to be but wasn't." Daniel smiled. "I'd like to hear more about that." They began again slowly. No power imbalance this time. No secrets. Just 2 people finding their way back to each other in a world where they were now equals. Patricia Langford, now approaching 60, checked in under her maiden name. Her settlement money had dwindled faster than expected. The alimony payments had stopped when Richard remarried. Her attempt at a memoir, canceled, My Truth, had been rejected by 17 publishers. Occasionally, someone would glance at her with vague recognition. "Weren't you?" But the question usually trailed off unfinished. The world had moved on to new outrage, new viral moments, new falls from grace. In her quieter moments, Patricia had finally confronted the truth. She had been the architect of her own destruction. Not the video. Not the internet. Not the cancel culture she still blamed in her darker moments. Her choices. Her assumptions. Her entitlement. 3 lives. 3 trajectories. 3 lessons about the nature of power. Daniel Stokes had never sought power over others, only justice. His integrity became his strength. Daniel Mercer had wielded tremendous power, but found true freedom only when he surrendered it for honesty. Patricia Langford had spent her life accumulating the trappings of power without understanding its responsibility. Her fall was proportional to her delusion.